What's up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Tarun's Thoughts. My name's Tarun Shetty. These are my thoughts. Hope you guys are doing well. Coming to you from Florida. Cheers. This morning I was reading. I always start my day. I read the Google News headlines. Just kind of puts everything together for me to read, not waste a lot of time. And there was an article about Matthew Perry. I guess he just wrote a memoir or some sort. And anything about Friends I read because Friends has a special place in my heart. I binge watched every episode with my mom when she was sick, so I got into it. I never watched Friends before because I was in boarding school when that show was there, and I guess Matthew Perry had a bunch of drug problems, was in rehab. And crazy story is when I was at an agency, one of my friends from the mailroom actually dated him, and she must have been like 20 years younger than him. And I was like, I remember looking at a magazine and I was like, hey, is that my friend Molly? It's kind of crazy, but hey, you know what, Matthew Perry has game. But I'm mentioning this because I was reading in the blog or in the article, and it said like he had his colon exploded and he had to have a colonoscopy bag, and really horrendous stuff. And I think I'm not here to judge anybody, but I think drugs and alcohol are so prevalent in Hollywood. And I'm just going to share my experiences because for a while, like, I had some surgeries and I was taking some painkillers, which, I'm not going to get into this, but you can read my book. You can go read my book if you want, and you can learn more about the fun life of Tarun Shetty. But it's really easy to get drugs in LA. I think that's the thing which people expect, and it is. In fact, this past year, I've come across, they weren't friends of mine, people who died of fentanyl poisoning. They did cocaine and just died. And, so this drug thing is a big deal in Hollywood. And I guess the question people have who don't live in Hollywood is why. And I don't have a clear answer for that, but I'm just going to tell you my theory. There's like a lifestyle in Hollywood of partying. And I remember being at the Comedy Store. I'm just going to use names of clubs. And I remember guys would smoke pot after shows and get into all kinds of trouble. And I used to just cut out after a certain time. But, guys like to party. Like, this has happened since the days yonder. Back in the day when Sam Kinison was around, this guy was a huge cokehead. And, there are guys today who are huge cokeheads that I'm not going to name, but I see them on Instagram and YouTube. And, I can see their acts too. Like, they're just high on coke, and they're actually really funny dudes. And they were funny initially. And then I see them on coke and they're like kind of manic and doing these high energy act outs. You're like, dude, this guy's strung out or something. But of course, Hollywood doesn't care. They probably have a free pass if you're making them money. But honestly, if you do drugs with the right people, that can lead to opportunities. As a comedian, you can start opening for certain guys. You can get writing jobs on their shows. That's what it is, right? Like social networking through drugs. It's unfortunate. I don't know Matthew Perry. I'm not in that circle at all. But who knows what circles he was riding with. And I think when you reach a certain level, there's even more pressure on you. And there was a guy I knew, and he was a manager, and he was a really talented guy. He just worked really hard. But every weekend he would always call me to do cocaine at his house. He was like, hey, can you come over? Let's do cocaine together. And I never did. But I remember thinking, I was like, dude, I would never want to be your client knowing that you've got this huge coke problem. Where's your focus? Like what kind of demons are you battling? And I felt like he was the type of guy who got into it because he saw other people around him who were more successful get into it. Like there's this whole image of like this, those rock star managers who kind of party with their clients and, go hard, play hard. People buy into this image of who they want to be. Also, I don't think that show Entourage really helped, that HBO show. I think that put out this false image of what Hollywood is like. And, people want to live their dream, live their fantasy. And, drugs to some extent can help you, be more creative. Writing, I'm not dissing smoking weed. If that helps you in your creative process and, outputting work, being more effusive, hey, To each his own, but it can definitely be a detriment. I mean, even this caffeine is probably I mean, it is. It definitely is. You have to be able to be self-aware and know when to limit, because otherwise, it can damage relationships. It can ruin careers. It can make you, not dependable. I mean, look at Johnny Depp. I mean, Johnny Depp, his career was really heavily damaged. In addition to beating his wife, they said he was a huge, had a huge drug problem and would show up late, like 6 hours, and who wants that? Like, your reputation is everything. But then again, like Ezra Miller from The Flash, is that his name? Like, that guy's a free pass, and he clearly is on something and needs help. So this is just like a repeated pattern, and I'm glad Matthew Perry is looks better. He's willing to share his problems, hopefully, and hopefully that'll help other people. Again, not to judge anybody, but the public can, have their own trial within themselves on the gossip magazines, and next thing you know, you're working at Walmart, and you're like, man, what happened to my career? Because drugs can take you down like that. This was a nice public service message. I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks for listening. Take care.